Good afternoon and welcome to the PEO SOFSA Mobile Hydrogen Production and Storage Assessment Event Q&A Telecon. My name is Sarah Marks. I'm the lead event coordinator for this effort here at SoftWorks. I would like to thank you each of you for participating today. Many of you are familiar with SoftWorks, but for those of you who may not be, SoftWorks is a nonprofit organization that is partnered with the United States Special Operations Command to bridge the gap between industry, academia, national labs, and government. SoftWorks is a platform designed and operated to help solve challenging warfighter problems through increased innovation and collaboration. If you have not already and would like to be notified of future opportunities with US SOCOM, be sure to join SoftWorks Ecosystem by visiting softworks.org/ecosystem. At this time, please open Slido using either the link provided in the Teams chat or by going to slido.com and entering event code pound key MHPS. Prior to this telecon, you were able to submit questions. If you have not already submitted questions, you may do so now. Please note that questions will be visible to all participants and information should be non-proprietary and unclassified. The government stakeholders might not be able to include specifics at this time as this is an unclassified facility effort and telecon. A transcript of the questions and answers will be provided on the event webpage after it is reviewed and approved, including any questions that the government team may need to discuss offline and provide an answer to later. If you see that someone else has already asked a question that you'd like to hear the answer to, please upvote that question using the thumbs up icon. This moves the questions up to the top and is seen as higher priority. Please remain muted through the remainder of the call and limit the Teams chat to technical difficulty concerns only. We will assist you as quickly as we can. I will now hand it over to the government team for welcome remarks. After they speak, we will move into the Q&A session on Slido. Submit your questions whenever you think of them. Over to you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it a lot. This is Joel Fox. I'm the PM for Expeditionary Support. I'll be managing this effort for our customer. And at this time, I would like to introduce John and Justin just to say hello. They are the technical leads on this requirement.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is John here.
And Justin in the room. And I just want to thank the entire team in the enterprise for taking the time today. Look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, John. Back over to you.
Thank you. We will now begin the Q&A session via Slido. I will highlight the questions as we go. The government team will read the questions aloud and then answer it. All right, here we go.
All right, first question I see here, the requirement says a single ISO container usually needs separate containers for the fuel and the genset. Can the fuel and the genset be in separate units? Question.
Yeah, the fuel and genset can be separated in units. Really what we're looking to strive towards is a small footprint for transportation means.
All right, what is meant by fuel cell? Is it the genset or the hydrogen storage?
Fuel cell referencing the hydrogen. Well, really it's the genset in combination with storage. So the genset will produce, and then the fuel cell would be the source where the generator pulls from.
How much money is available for the award, and what is the pot? I'm going to have to refer back over to SoftWorks. So this is an assessment event of a stage of technology. And as far as like if there's any residual funding that's available for a vendor that is successful, we would pursue a separate funding option at the end of this if we were able to find a technology or capability that is either A, ready to go, or B, warrants additional funding and resources for maturation.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off of that. Thank you, sir. This is Claire Harmon from SoftWorks. So basically how assessment events work is the stakeholders will put money onto a collaborative project order here, and then it really depends on what the industry says their cost is as to how much more money they might have to put onto the collaborative project order at SoftWorks to pay the vendor. So it just comes down to what you guys put on your submission as to how much money you're asking for. But yeah, there are multiple different routes that the stakeholders can choose from to go into after the event. They can choose to go into a business-to-business agreement between SoftWorks and the company, all the way up into the FAR-based contract. So there are many options there.
All right, so for the next question, the triple constraint of basically size, weight, and power, which of these elements is the priority?
Yeah, so from our perspective, power production being number one, our size limitation, right, is based off of transportability, and I would say weight is the third concern in terms of those priorities.
All right. Are we expected to provide a demonstration during the period of performance or the assessment event? I'm going to throw that additional language on there. Over.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. So the goal of this is for, I mean, like, I know some of this seems a little bit further than some vendors and market research capability shows, but the ability to be able to demonstrate in a relevant environment would be ideal. Now, that being said, if you have a technology that is too big, too bulky, you're not able to demonstrate it on site at SoftWorks, we can work opportunities after that. It'll essentially be discussed once we get all the proposals. We do a down select for the most likely technology capabilities that can meet the requirement. And again, if your stuff is just too big or too cumbersome, we can work to come out to your site to do a demonstration or performance. Over.
Yeah, so sorry, go ahead, Joey.
Is the 500 kilowatt capacity a hard requirement, or is there also an interest in a 3.6 kW portable version?
Yeah, so the 500 kW is a hard requirement for us based off of the use case we're looking for.
Now, that being said, I guess we probably should have caveated this on the front end. If any of the answers to the questions, if you feel that knocks your technology out of the ballpark immediately, I still encourage you to submit. And I say that because we will do a down select process, and it's going to be, looking at the most capable systems. Again, we have pretty significant requirements, and if somebody showed up tomorrow able to fit all those, we'd be a little bit suspect if they could do every single thing that we're asking for. So we do have some weight and priorities, and they'll be identified during this to a degree. But please put in, whoever asked this question about the 3.6 kW, and the reason I say that is because we also share some of this input with other entities that may be looking for power sources. So I want to put that caveat there. If you have a capability that you think comes close to this, or even it remotely could be scalable down the road with with some significant investment, we would still like to hear from that. Over. Next question, is this a NATO initiative or specifically U.S.? This is a U.S. requirement, and specifically it's SOCOM. That being said, we do have interested parties with what used to be PEO, CS, and CSS, PM E2, S2, their power requirements. Same thing with a couple other entities within the services and SOCOM. Over. Next question, is 500 kW really needed 24/7?
Similar to the last question asked, yeah, 500 kW is a 24/7 requirement. scalable too. Like we'd be looking at 500 kW out of a single unit, but with the potential to have multiple units on ground to produce the total requirement we would actually need.
Thank you, John. All right, next question. Given storage footprint and low pressure constraints, is the objective a package system or a feasible architecture? That one disappeared.
I would say that a package system would be higher on the preferential list of things we would be looking to procure. Feasible architecture, I think I would want whoever asked that to give a little bit more clarity on what they're thinking there before I could speak to that. But yeah, a package system for our needs and transporting it would be easiest for us. We'll say that.
All right, thank you. Next question is there a limitation on the number of submissions from each organization? As far as we're concerned on our end, I would say no. Claire, I'll defer to your team if there is a prohibition on submittal, as far as like one company putting in multiple efforts.
Nope. You can submit as many times as you want from one organization. There is a little question on there that asks for the capability name. So just make sure to put the name of each capability in there so that we know the differences of each submission.
All right. Next question is, are there limitations on how the hydrogen is delivered to the containerized generator?
No. We're open. We're pretty open to how this is accomplished.
Yeah, and I wanted to jump in on this as we talked previously. Like we fully acknowledge that hydrogen production at the point of need is probably the biggest long pole in the tent in this, right? And so like as we've kind of done our own research, right? Like the ability to have stored hydrogen on site and produce and meet the energy demands is like our number one priority. Acknowledging that like hydrogen production at the point of need is probably something that is going to take time, unless I'm missing something. But that's just one of the things that we've talked about.
And then also a little bit of piggyback on that. Yes, this is a specific requirement that we have. I'm sure a lot of people on this line are tracking that DIU is working about 30 different hydrogen power production, utilization, electrolysis, different phases of that. And the Army's CASCOM is looking at 2040 for using hydrogen fuel cells for mobility platforms, UXF capabilities. So hydrogen is the way we're going. We just have a different requirement sooner and more urgent than the big services. I did just want to caveat that. All right. Next question. Why does it have to be hydrogen? Are there options for hybrid technologies if needed or applicable? So for this effort, yes, it has to be hydrogen. I say that. I'm running other efforts with other teams that are looking at alternate power sources at the point of need. Doesn't have to be hydrogen. It can be renewables. It could be novel concepts. There's a lot of different things that we're exploring. And that's engaged in the technical sprint 16. That stuff is available online. And I can see if I can get this to the SoftWorks team to push out to you. We've got an event running up in early May that's already been locked in, but we may have some vendors opportunities on the back end. If you have mature technologies that are ready to go to low rate initial production in the next 12 months. That's separate from this event. But yes, for this event, hydrogen is what we're looking for. Over. Next, are teaming partners encouraged? Absolutely. Anytime you can cooperate to graduate and meet a requirement, this would be an ideal circumstance. Again, some people have expertise in whether it's the electrolysis or electrolyzer, sorry. Some people have expertise in making stuff air transportable and across the spectrum. So yes, teaming is absolutely encouraged. How you want to do that, how you choose to do that is up to you. We can't do. And then next one, what is the minimum TRL level you're interested in? Since we're looking at a operational capability, we're targeting the TRL6 as a minimum. Again, understanding that you may only have one piece of the puzzle, but that capability shows that you have at least a prototype that can function in a somewhat relevant environment. Storage, do you rule out 350 or 700 bar compressed storage?
Yep. Yeah, we're looking for something that is safe for transportation as stored via all mechanisms and means. So really demonstrated capabilities that we've seen on industry up to this point have been anywhere between, well, below 7 bar. And that's kind of the area that we've been looking at is 7 and below, and ideally below a bar would be safe just due to the environments that it might be exposed to.
Thank you. All right, next question. Do you have guidelines for how much solar, wind, or micro hydro energy is available on site, i.e. converting the renewable energy into hydrogen without using the fuel? I think that's going to be, it depends, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on footprint. So when we have looked at solar in the past, the really big problem for us has been the footprint of the solar to be able to produce the quantity of energy we need. Same for, so hydrogen seemed to be the sweet spot for us in renewable energy, we'll say it that way, and the ability to produce the amount of energy we need without having a drastic footprint that gives off a large signature.
I'm gonna jump out on a limb here real quick. I haven't had a chance to discuss this specifically with John and Justin and their requirement, but my model that I'm using for my renewable or energy at the point of need is I'm effectively using a PACE plant. So my primary is going to be, hydrocarbon fuels, JP8, JP4, diesel fuel, whatever it is, some type of fossil fuel system is going to be my go-to. And then my alternate would be a battery backup. So I've got a smart microgrid that's doing battery. So anything that I'm burning off extra is going into that battery or into the grid, one or the other. And then whenever I get to my contingency, I'm going to have ideally some type of renewable where it's, high density solar that can feed in this battery pack, but also all that extra is going into my emergency, which is making that low pressure hydrogen, storing it so that if I run out of gas, I now start using my batteries. So I run out of my batteries, I'm relying on my renewable and my hydrogen as my in case of emergency break glass. And that could be because of weather events, adversarial conditions, supply chain interruptions, bad fuel, a lot of different things you could do it. So my team is working at like a PACE plan. I'm assuming you guys are kind of considering that. So we're not planning on punting, like megatons of hydrogen at a point of need and never relying on fuel again. Because we have mobility platforms, we have all these other capabilities that still require a fuel supply. We're just trying to mitigate and minimize any interruptions to operations as a result of fuel interruptions. So I know that's probably going to generate a couple other questions, but I want to keep it on task and kind of throw that out there to respond to this question and probably a couple next. All right, next question. Are any specific certifications or standards required at this stage? How can we demonstrate prototype equipment that is not certified? Can we demonstrate prototype equipment that is not certified? We have certain opportunities to do test and evaluation on equipment that hasn't been certified through an industrial standard. There is a risk assessment and safety protocols that we would have to step through if you have a capability that does that. And I say that just because, SOF has a little bit, it's technically the same as the services, but we just exercise the ability to do combat evaluations where we take prototypes and kind of kick the tires a little bit. And then if that's the case, then again, we'll try to chase down some funding to help with the certification requirements or get across the finish line to what we need. All right, please provide links to info for TechSprint 16 low rate initial production within 12 months using hydrogen. Okay, I think there might have been something I've said taken out of context. What I said about our TechSprint 16 is once we have the TechSprint stuff complete, TechSprint 16 is complete, I intend to go to OUSW if we have viable products to try to get to a low rate initial production of whatever the mature technology that can provide what I need for a powered location. All right, the next question. The electrolyzer spec is, and I don't know if everybody else can read that, but it's 0.7 to 2.8 kilograms. The 500 kW system requires about 30 kilograms of hydrogen. Is on-site hydrogen production intended to be primary or supplemental? I think that goes back to the PACE plan discussion. It's a supplemental. It's the E in our PACE plan with regards to, if in case of emergency brake glass. That's one of the reasons we want to keep it low pressure so that we don't have to deal with all the energy required for cooling at higher pressures, as well as vulnerability to direct, indirect fire or somebody driving into it with a forklift. What are the acceptable limits for thermal signature, IR detectability, waste heat rejection? We're more concerned about the technology right now. If there is a heat or IR detectability situation, there are external structures that we could use to help minimize and mitigate that. Right now, the focus is on capability, not the signature. Duration of the pop expected for this program. Specifically with the SoftWorks assessment event, I'd have to defer to Claire to how we can push this along. If we are able to determine a mature enough technology to move on, it would be probably through a more traditional contracting effort. It may still be an OTA, but don't know that at this time.
Yeah, since you guys don't know which mechanism you're going to use, I'm not sure of the timeline. The beauty of SoftWorks is it's very flexible. We'll deal with that when it comes.
Yeah, thank you. Next question. Do you consider 500 to 100 bar low enough pressure if we can demonstrate suitable safety?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're open to evaluating technology wherever it is, and if it meets our needs, then we're open to it.
All right. So next question. Do you have a preference for the type of hydrogen generation technology, CAM, etc.?
No.
Now, this is more about the ability to store at low pressure and usability from that state of storage. If a live demo is not possible for any reason, can we provide video of a past demonstration? For that one, it would kind of depend on who the demonstration was for. And I say that because if you did it for a government entity, if you can provide a report from that entity with their test results or their observations, I think we would consider that as a feasible option. So yeah, I'm getting head nods. So all right, storing hydrogen at 1 bar will be very heavy, likely not easily mobile. Again, the storage aspect of the hydrogen is once it's in place. The intent, at least initially, is not necessarily to be able to transport all the hydrogen we would need for a 30-day cycle. It would be get on site and be able to start generating on. Am I using that correctly? I mean,
like
yeah,
way.
yeah,
Either way, we'd be good either way, to be honest.
yeah. At the minimum, being able to produce it at the point of need. If we can produce it and safely transport it on the front end, and I just said because you have the cube and waiting out on C-130s and C-17s could be.
Yeah, could be. It would just depend. When we say very heavy, like we'd have to know.
Very heavy.
I think it's just going to be taking up a lot of pallet positions for bulk. All right. I know we kind of talked a little bit inside, but this is going to be one of those. It depends.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. The description seems to be focused on electrolysis for hydrogen generation. Would you consider methanol to hydrogen conversion as a possible electrolysis? I'll speak from my perspective, and maybe John and Justin will have something similar. I've waved off on other consumable chains that require hydrogen production because if I can't get fuel why would I be able to get these other commodities or limitations, especially whenever it's something that's not generally in a military supply chain system or DLA? So I would waive off on that one as far as that goes. Is there any more guidance around ballistically safe? This is mainly around hydrogen storage solutions. Again, we're more focused on the technology and capability. We can mitigate through other technologies, any ballistics or direct or indirect fires, environmental conditions and stuff like that. So the focus is around energy or hydrogen generation and storage. Would delivering a 500 kW system in 18 months a good time frame? I'm getting a head nod. Yes, 12 months would be better.
Yeah, would be better, but yes.
But yeah, I mean, as long as it meets the criteria and the needs, yeah, absolutely. Next question. The criteria specifies fuel cell power. What about hydrogen combustion engine based mobile power generators, provided they meet all the performance requirements? Submit your paper. Yeah. Submit your paper. Let us look at it. Next. I'm trying to join the ecosystem. I entered my info and hit submit, but nothing happened. Should I have received an email? That's a clear one.
Yeah, so I saw that come in and I asked the nerd herd here. We don't actually have a confirmation email that goes out when you submit, but we can always check that for you. So if you want to shoot Sarah an email, we can confirm it for you.
All right, so since this is for backup power, not prime power, how many days do you need it to run without the potential of resupply? This will help us size the storage. I'm going to jokingly say all of them, all of the days, but I think
worst case scenario, what we're looking at is if we had to run this as the prime power source, we'd be looking to run it for a period of 13 to 15 days uninterrupted. So if all